Is our next speaker 7.5 minutes, Deputy?
Thanks very much, Les Cahirlick. Minister, the document that we'll be voting on later this afternoon is just a two-pager, an outline of principles. To use, I suppose, an appropriate metaphor, here's the announcement this morning, the order of business, for government backbenchers. And you give a little ding-dong whistle like you get at the airport. For flight IAG 999. The boarding gates, or the voting gates, close at 4:45. But we haven't done the packing properly. The government's minority shareholding at 25% thereabouts, at a price of $2.50 a share, amounts to 335 million. That's a better price than per share than the 75% sold some years ago. But for openers, there should have been the opportunity taken to get the pensioners who built the company up to what it is today fairly exited for their lifetime work. And you should revisit that price and add in at least 150 million infusion into the pension fund. And Ryanair would support that, because Ryanair have a potential exposure if you reopened the pension wound for the pensioners, deferred pensioners of Aer Lingus. And they know that. So you have a leverage to the proposed buyers. And if you add in the 40 to 60 million saving a year that the NIRIS report talks about in costs, and you take a 10-year view, that represents between 400 and 600 million of bonus or extra, super expectation capital for the buyers. That's why, as a minimum, you owe it to the people who built this airline, presented it in its present form, to do the right and the fair thing now. For instance, bringing this proposal to the House with the largest majority ever in the history of the state in Leinster House here in the Dáil, without considering this, is pretty limp. It's gutless. It's not right. The document here should have been presented to us on the basis of E and OE, the errors and omissions accepted. It's the shortest sentence in the whole document, the two-page document, price, that the offer price is a cash payment of at least €2.50 per Aer Lingus share. It's shamefully raw, shamefully bald. Of course the buyer would be prepared to pay an extra 150 million. It represents only 10% above the overall price to all shareholders. And as Deputy Sean Fleming said yesterday, Aer Lingus is actually owned by a composite of Irish residents, Ryanair, the Pilots Pension Fund and the state. It totals up to 60%. So there's great cohesive negotiating strength. And they know it. The buyers know it. It's just that there's a propensity amongst departments and ministerial offices and cabinets to go round in circles talking in hypothetical terms rather than in business terms. And the buyers will assuredly digest another 150 million. Minister, I ask you, eyeball to eyeball, did you put it down and say that that was an opening requirement? The pension fund had to be uplifted by 150 million, not less than. Then everything that follows would have been meaningful. because you can't move from the legacy issues, the unresolved legacy issues that are an open sore to the past employees and their families. You can't move forward to the present day and into the future without tidying up the past. And the potential buyer knows that too. So I would say that the boarding gates closing at 4:45 for the backbenchers who will be required to put on blindfolds and insert their earplugs will have missed the opportunity to board with safety on an airline that Deputy Creighton fairly describes as requiring the resources of a wider network of allegiances and alliances to deliver to the Irish people the air transport that's needed inwards and outwards of Ireland, because when you look into the future, the aircraft will mostly be landing and staying in Ireland, in Dublin and other places. The staff will be largely Irish, so possession is 9/10 of the law. And we'll be in a reality situation of being able to bring forward whatever regulations and legislation is required to keep that safe. But if you don't roll up the sleeves, and if you don't put a bit of shoulders back and steel in the spine to right the wrong of the pension rate on past employees and deferred pensioners and current pensioners, you will have done a very dark day's business, and it will have been wrong to do it. There's 166 of us here, and we shouldn't allow it. And do you know what? IAG would respect us for it, and they'd pay the price. It's only 10% of the overall. Thank you.